regardless of what the other vehicles are doing, the Conservative Party bus has crashed overnight. And it's crashed quite badly. I'd be interesting to see how he copes with it. Is he one of those people who, when actually the back begins to feel the wall, he starts lashing out or behaving petulantly? You know how Johnson carefully cultivated that image of being quite carefree and not caring about much, and I'm such a and then actually, as soon as anybody, and very rarely did anybody do this tragically, as soon as anybody held his feet to the fire at all, he became a really nasty piece of work, telling disgusting lies, of course, about Keir Starmer in the House of Commons, repeating what were essentially internet troll tactics in the House of Commons itself. When you get this notion of, what would you call it? I mean, just the bully cornered, if you like. It was very illuminating. I've got no idea how Sunak copes with adversity because we've never really seen him in it. Regardless of what the other vehicles are doing, the Conservative Party bus has crashed overnight. And it's crashed quite badly. I won't over-egg this particular analogy, but the casualty count is going to be about as high as the worst predictions suggested. Maybe not as high as the worst, but in that kind of area. So Rishi Sunak in the driving seat for a disastrous electoral performance. That's a matter of fact. I don't know how many people are going to try to pretend that it's not, or try to turn it into a conversation about, well, I think you'll find that Keir Starmer's Labour Party didn't win every single council seat on every single council in the country. Therefore, this is actually a very bad night for them, actually. But this is a disaster for the Tories. Predicted, expected, but a disaster. Don't get smug if you're keen to see the back of them. Anything can happen in politics. If a week is a long time, what the hell is 18 months? I often think of the Falkland Islands, bizarrely, on mornings like this, because I don't think it's apocryphal to say that Margaret Thatcher's polling, shortly before General Galtieri decided to send troops to the Falkland Islands, Margaret Thatcher's polling was catastrophic. The notion of her winning a second term in Downing Street was vanishingly small. And then, of course, the Falklands War came along and delivered historic public support to the Prime Minister who sent troops to the South Atlantic, quite rightly, and actually displayed, whatever you thought about other things that she did remarkable qualities of leadership in that context. So you never know what's going to happen. Keir Starmer is currently trying to carry a Ming vase across an ice rink. That's the best way to understand it. You've probably heard that analogy before. I explore it a bit further with Alistair Campbell, who knows quite a lot about this stuff, in next week's Full Disclosure. But that is the tactic they have chosen. We're not going to make massive announcements. We're not going to set off fireworks. That's the choice you've got. Either we set off fireworks, have a big party, try and invite as many people as possible, everybody starts dancing around our maypole, or you take what you've got, which is a very, very damaged opponent, and you carry the Ming vase of victory across an ice rink, hoping that you won't slip over. It may not be the right decision, but it's the decision that he's clearly taken. So what should Sunak do now? Here's a really interesting thing. So Rishi Sunak, I read in the Telegraph today, faces pressure from the right wing of the party. Could you imagine that? Rishi Sunak faces pressure from people further to the right of a government that is using racist rhetoric about refugees to cover up their utter failure to govern effectively in every other area of British life. Rishi Sunak faces pressure from people further to the right than his current cabinet, which of course contains Suella Braverman, and until relatively recently contained Dominic Raab. What is further to the right than Rishi Sunak? Yeah, that was actually a rhetorical question, but I couldn't come up with any answers either. Government policies that involve lies about the most desperate people on the planet, rendering them illegals rather than humans when they are absolutely not illegal, when the government ministers who were ever asked what law these people are breaking are utterly unable to say so. When they're asked why you're not arresting these people, are utterly unable to say so. And yet even today, having presided over exponential increases in the number of desperate souls crossing the English Channel in dinghies, even today, Rishi Sunak keeps promising to stop the boats. So what does a lurch to the right look like? Bring back the birch? The cat o' nine tails? The death penalty? But what does a lurch to the left look like? And how big a shadow does Brexit cast over everything? It doesn't seem to have played much of a part in votes overnight, but I can tell you this because it's very interesting. Labour's making its gains in Brexit voting areas, and the Tories are making their biggest losses in Brexit voting areas.